Hey there, wellness family. Thank you for clicking on today's video, which is a new series I'm launching called When the Universe Has Other Plans for You. So my name is Peter Gordon, and I'm a graduate student working towards what will be an eventual doctorate in clinical psychology. I also happen to be a life coach and a holistic health coach. I make videos on mental health, fitness, wellness, and everything that will help you lead your most profound life. So if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, also the notification bell so you're notified each Thursday when I post a brand new video. Also, don't forget to share this video, like it, and comment on it. So When the Universe Has Other Plans for You is a new series I've launched here on YouTube, and it's all about interviewing people that I personally know or I have admired from afar. And these are people who've had to kind of readjust their lives, who've had to pivot because somehow they thought they had one plan for their lives and the universe decided, no, this is what I really want to do. So this is about me interviewing them, telling their stories to kind of help you realize that at the end of the day, you may have this plan for yourself, but the universe may want you to do something else. So this series is all about telling those people's stories so it may in turn inspire you. And for Women's History Month, I'm going to be interviewing all women. That's in March here. So the first series of videos will be all about women that I admire, women that I know personally, and some that I don't really know personally, but just admire from afar. So let's get into the first. This is episode 1, and I'm interviewing a dear friend of mine who I've come to know over the last couple of months. Her name is Tomika Anderson. Tomika is an amazing person, so let's get right into it. So I am really excited for this particular, the first episode of when the universe has other plans for you, and I'm really excited about this person. Her name is Tomika Anderson. Welcome, Miss Tomika.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Tomika and I have a sort of interesting story because we connected on a dating app, right? Like back in, was it early fall?
Yeah, before the world completely closed.
When the world completely closed, yeah. And then we went out on a date, and then in my world, I think I just had so much going on that we just somehow became friends. I think that's how it worked out, right?
I guess so.
We'll leave it at that. Enough said. Enough said. But I just think she's such a cool person. And when I thought about this series about people who pivoted in their lives and somehow found themselves in a space that maybe they never anticipated or perhaps anticipated, I thought that she would be the best person to start this series off with. And not only that, she'd be the best woman to start off Women's History Month here in March. So welcome, Tomika, and thank you for being my first guest.
You're welcome. And people who are watching, I like to chide Peter. We have a very fun engagement back and forth. But listen, I mean, the cool thing about sometimes connecting with people on dating sites is you don't know how the journey is going to go. You can legitimately find good friends and kindred spirits. Timing may not be a good thing, but everything else can totally fall in line. So I'm excited about being part of this series and number one.
Right.
And because I think, as Peter is probably talking to you guys all about anyway, the journey is about being authentic and about sharing yourself and the things that you've overcome with the hopes that it'll inspire others. So
indeed,
I'm very happy to be here.
Touche. And you can chide away because I'm so used to it right now, I know it comes from a very loving place, So
of course.
So I wanted to give you guys a background into Tomika. Now, usually I'm really good at memorizing things, but this woman has so much things going on, I had to write them down. So I'm going to try to read through, as much as I hate to do it, I'm going to try to read very quickly through this woman's list of accomplishments. They are far-reaching. First of all, Tomika is an award-winning content creator and communication strategy consultant who has contributed to several US and international outlets such as Entertainment Weekly, The Associated Press, Time Out New York, Essence, TheRoot.com, National Journal, Ebony, Black Enterprise People, New York Magazine, I believe, right? Yeah, MTV, BET, the CW Network, Fuse, Fox News, CNN.com. And okay, you think she's done, she keeps going.
Tomika has worked with some amazing brands such as Martha Stewart Living Omni Media, Universal Music, and the Investigation Discovery Channel. And if that is not enough, folks, this woman has also worked with the U.S. and international governmental organizations, including the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, and agencies, and also agencies that fall under the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Now, I thought I was done there, but no, she goes on. Well, wait, there's more. Tomika is an avid traveler and a single mother who has chronicled some of her many favorite adventures to 5 continents and nearly 40 countries, including Cuba, Morocco, South Africa, Thailand, and India. She's also the founder of the social networking group Single Parents Who Travel, which is comprised of hundreds of members from around the globe. And Tomika is also the founder of the Story Tell Hers. I really love that name. Story, think of the, then the word story, then tell, H-E-R, story, the Story Tell Hers. I thought it's so dope. A more than decade-old international community service organization comprised of hundreds of women of color media professionals. She's a longtime member of the National Association of Black Journalists, a graduate of the University of Virginia. She resides in the Washington, D.C. area with her son. I am exhausted just reading that. Wait a minute. I thought I was finished. There's another one. Tomika also happens, if that's not enough, Tomika also happens to be an internationally certified life coach and the founder of Motivated Mamas, a mastermind and coaching business dedicated to the success of single parents. Okay, with all that being said, Mr. Meek, I have 3 quick questions for you here based on all that I've read. I want to make sure of this, right? So I want to lead with these 3 questions. Number 1, did I get it all? Because I want to make sure I give you all your flaws and your accolades right now. Did I get it all?
I should, you remind me I should update this because I've traveled to almost 45 countries and I'm really excited about that because all of them, the most recent ones have been with my son, who is the inspiration for single parents who travel. He is 7 and we've been to France together and Dubai and St. Martin and we're going to Mexico a couple times this year. I'm truly a proponent of single parent families. Yeah, I think that's, I mean, I'm a government contractor full time. That's the work that I'm doing.
That's what you're doing, okay.
Full time. But my work prior to all of this, in terms of government contracting, was a lot of work with celebrities in New York. So it's kind of like a completely different world now that I live in.
Mm-hmm. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that later, because I think that's part of this discussion, Mm-hmm. So I wanted to make sure I got it all. So clearly I didn't because there was more. There was more. So I'm glad I went down that path and just to clarify, right?
You were funny.
Number 2, what in heaven's name made you decide to go run with the Bulls in Spain?
You know what? I have a very bucket list attitude about life. Mm-hmm. I feel like leave nothing on the table. Do all the things that you're afraid of because that's how you grow. And it's also really cool when you find community of Black people in particular who also have that energy about life. So when I did that, I ran with the only other Black people in that entire stadium, save one married couple who we wound up having dinner with afterwards because we were like, other Black people, that was it. So yeah, it was fun. I mean, I had to train for a little while. I didn't want to just go in there rough, waiting for these people to stomp me out. But yeah. It was a good time.
When I saw the picture, I'm like, what? How did she take herself to go to Spain? I'm going to go run with some bulls that can gore me. But listen, I'm not judging. That's dope, man. Not judging. With the last of my 3 little questions here very quickly, with all these jobs that you've done, and the fact that you have the hardest job in the world, which is a single mother, is there any way you think you have some Jamaican lineage? Because girl, you have way too many jobs.
You have jokes.
I'm just saying, it's you're taking a page out of the Jamaican book. If you guys don't know the sort of history about Jamaicans in America, and in fact, a lot of immigrants from the Caribbean, is that we have multiple jobs. And I hate to say it, but it's a very, very true stereotype because I've had a million jobs at once. And there was a whole skit on In Living Color back in the day when they said that You know, we got 5 jobs, man. I hated the accent, but it was so accurate.
15 jobs, man.
So, you know, you may want to do your ancestry.com because you'll definitely find your region of in part of Africa, but I'm certain you'll have some connection to the Caribbean somewhere because this is way too many jobs, man, you know? So I guess this sort of leads me to this really, I think, really pertinent question. How long how long did it take you to get into this space? Because in a sense, I think, this just didn't happen overnight, right? Like, how did you get into this space to be doing all these various things?
So it's interesting, and I'll try to make this as condensed as possible. But I mean, my parents raised a strong-willed child, much to their benefit and their chagrin, right?
Yeah.
I come from a military background. I come from a groundbreaker of a father, in particular, and my mother too. They both the first in their family to go to college. My dad was like, state level basketball champion. He was one of the first wave of Black graduates from the U.S. Military Academy. I grew up with a mindset of all things are possible, including bucking the family desire for me in terms of my path to also go into the military. My parents were really upset that I had appointments to West Point, the Naval Academy, a 4-year ROTC scholarship, but I just wanted to write. I am one of those people that I found out later in life who just always kind of had a sense of where they wanted to go. I knew from when I was in, I think, the 7th grade, I wanted to be a writer. I won some poetry contest, and my poetry was published in like Department of Defense wide publication. And that was it. I was like, I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to move to New York. I'm going to do what it takes to be successful. And that's exactly what happened. I wasn't the best writer, but I was definitely the most persistent. And, I knew how to squeak a greasy wheel in terms of getting a shot. And so I think that's taken me a long way in terms of everything. And then just seeing the compounded successes over the years, it made me feel like, well, why wouldn't I try this and that? Why wouldn't I build upon what I'm doing? I just need to find the system and the people necessary to help me fulfill all of my visions and dreams. And I also have, I think the last thing that's really important is I have tremendous mentors, some of whom are aware of the fact that they're mentors and some of them who are not. I have a client who's one of my biggest mentors. He has, in government contracting, grossed more than $1 billion for the government contracts, and he never finished college. So when I hear these stories, I'm like, who am I not to pursue absolutely everything and anything that I want?
Yeah.
And I also want to raise my son to know the same. I appreciate the fact that my son has asked me, how do you do all these things, Mom? Well, I find good people. I pay them well, so they are loyal. And I also, I'm not afraid to fail. And I think that's another thing, that's really critical. It's like not being afraid to fail, try, and then adjust. Those are definitely principles that I live by.
Got you. So it's interesting. I imagine people can see sort of this finished product, right? Or what they perceive is this finished product in Tomika Anderson. And so they make assumptions that it just sort of happened overnight and here you are and this woman just doing her thing. Do you get that assumption a lot from people that you work with, regular people in your lives?
There are people who have seen me, kind of get myself together, especially when I was transitioning over from being, like the celebrity journalist to being a single mother who was creating her second act.
Yeah.
I think that was probably one of the most pivotal times for me to have to do a gut check about who I am and what I'm capable of. I like to say that I tell this to my single parents all the time, that having my son was like a bomb going off. It was just like everything that I knew before was kind of destroyed, and not in a bad way. It's just that your life does not look the same after you have your child.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You've got to make sure that another person comes first. You have to make sure that you have, for me, the kind of job that allows the flexibility for me to be there. And so I had no clue how that was going to work, especially moving out of New York to DC. New York is like glitz and glamour. DC is political stuff, like federal stuff. So I was like, okay, so what's that going to look like? I didn't have a real strong sense of that. But what I did do was dig deep, read. One of my mentors, who's a part of my mastermind group that I'm helping to facilitate right now, he recommended I read this book called Think and Grow Rich, which a lot of people will recognize. It's a classic book. I literally read that book sitting in the rocking chair next to my son's crib when he was like only like maybe a month or two old. I read that book cover to cover to him out loud, because it doesn't matter what you read your kids. You just have to read to them so they begin to understand how to use language, etc.
Right.
That was like a real, like, sort of a moment for me to think about how I can have whatever I want. I just have to believe that I can, then act as if I can have whatever I'd like. And then those things will happen. And that's precisely what happened. You know, I kind of, first of all, the mastermind concept came from that group. And I wound up creating a mastermind with the help of a couple of friends, which helped me, like most immediately, me, to find a great job that paid well, get into a home. It helped me lose my baby weight. I was like, wow, I'm onto something. Accountability, community.
Right.
So I got a certification in that, in terms of mastermind facilitation, et cetera. And that's what led me to coaching, because I'm like, if I can coach myself successfully, and then also help with the mastermind and coaching others who are similarly successful meeting their goals, I could do the same with other stuff. So it's a very long-winded answer to your question, Peter.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And it sort of brings me back to the essence of this particular series, which is really all about people who, in a sense, sort of had one idea about what they wanted to do. And the universe says, hold on, if that's what you think you're going to be doing, I have a rude awakening for you. This path that I want you to go on, though, is going to be a bit arduous. And you're going to question everything about what I'm trying to do with you. But if you stay the course, you'll kind of get to this space. Was this, all these things, was this what you had planned for your life in general? Like from like 20, 30 years ago, you think? I'm not trying to age, you know.
Heck no. Yeah. It's funny. Something I've noticed that I've done since small was make a list of things I want to achieve for every year. So I've been pretty like consistent about, okay, so I've written now for Essence, I want to write for Ebony. I've written for Essence for a long time. Now I want to write a cover story for Essence. You know, I want to write for the New York Times or the Atlantic or something. I've always put together a list of things that I want to do. And that just takes me a year out. But with parenting, I need to think longer, you know, a lot more longer term. I need to think about retirement. And then also my kid going to college, you know, what does that look like in terms of my financial responsibility? So I've learned to build on a vision. But in terms of like, you know, the shift that I made, it was more so just like remembering who I am and all of my successes in the past, and how it may not look exactly the same with this new path, but it could look really similar. Since moving to the DC area, I've still, you know, interviewed Lenny Kravitz for the cover of a magazine, gone to New York, like stuff didn't really have to change. I didn't have to change who I was. I didn't have to change all of the work. I just made it need to like find another job to supplement it, you know?
Right.
So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question straight out, but like, I think it's just over the years, my mindset has become such that things may throw me off for a little bit, but then I'm like, why? Did you not do this before?
Right.
Together.
Yeah.
So nice day. And you come back.
Yeah. So let's talk about things that may have thrown you off in the past. Because, you know, the thing I have learned with my own life is what you think you're going to go through, or what you think you're going to be doing, doesn't always work that way, right? What are some of the things that, and it's up to you and how deep you want to go with your life.
Single parenting. I mean, I didn't know I was going to be a single parent. That wasn't part of my plan. Then again, I didn't really have a plan, right?
Yeah.
I always knew I wanted to be a parent. Wasn't necessarily sure I wanted to be married. My parents have been married for, gosh, they're going on 50 years at this point. You know, and I've seen the ups and downs of that. So motherhood is something I knew I wanted to experience, but not necessarily marriage. at the same time, I never took marriage off the table. So I find like it's interesting because I feel like sometimes in the absence of a plan, the universe just presents you with an option. What are you going to do, with your life, and how are you going to configure it? Single parenthood, most definitely in the early years, which I think any mother can attest to, any mom can attest to, let alone single parent. I mean, you're going to be thrown off. You're going to be like, oh, is this the job I want to be in now? If I want to spend time with my kid, is this the level of, education I need to move up the ladder if I want to make more money? Things became much more strategic for me as a result of, being a single parent. And also just lifestyle, my life in New York, I've traveled by yacht, on private plane, on tour buses with celebrities. When I moved here, I had an opportunity to travel the country with my favorite star, my favorite singer of all time, Stevie Wonder. But my son was too little for that. I wasn't going to leave him. So it was a shift that I had to make. And then when I made the shift, okay, these are the things that I want to maintain about myself because this will make me happy and therefore make me a good parent, meaning continuing to be in media. And these are the things that I'm going to shift also so that my kid benefits from being with me and my time, creating communities that support us as a family.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
When your son started to, or being a single mother started to kind of make you change your perspective, how was that change for you? Was it a difficult swing? Did you sort of have to kind of decompress from some aspects of your, I don't want to say your former life, but let's call it that for lack of a better word or phrase. Was there some sort of a decompress you had to go through to kind of make that adjustment?
Well, let's see. Initially, the job that I had in the DC area didn't work out. So I was like unemployed for a little while. I had to figure out what that was going to look like in terms of a good, solid job. I wasn't used to that because I had many jobs in New York, but I wasn't going to live in New York anymore. That was a big one. New York is like one of the great loves of my life. I love living there, but I felt like I needed to be closer to my parents because I wanted to have a support system, not just for me, but very much for him. So it was a lot about becoming selfless in some respects so that, again, you could create something for someone else that was going to help make them happy and successful in life. So yeah, there were those periods where it was like, okay, I don't have a job, or I don't know what I want to do, or I'm going to work in federal government now instead of like, interviewing whomever. How's that going to work? I think one of the biggest shifts I did in terms of getting into this line of work that I'm working at full time now is, okay, so my barter with myself was I have to do something that I'm passionate about. It can't just be anything. Like at some point I was like be interviewing to work for the Department of Energy, and I was going to be writing like scientific copy all day. That wasn't going to work after talking to Michelle Obama. Like, we just can't go backwards.
Yeah, yeah. I certainly can understand that. It's like, it's not that you're knocking your bosses or anything like that, but you don't really stack up to a Michelle Obama. Sorry,
Yeah, it doesn't. So the biggest sort of, I think I understand where you're going with this. The biggest things I had to do were to think about what the sacrifice was going to be and whether or not it was too great of a sacrifice or not big enough of a sacrifice. So too great of a sacrifice is work for the Department of Energy. Not enough of a sacrifice is staying in New York and worrying about where my son was going to go to school. Too great of a sacrifice is working at a job for the rest of my life in an office someplace. At the same time, and you asked me, like, how do I do all these things? I get up really early in the morning every day to work out or make food or what have you for my son. I'm really organized. Like, my house, for the most part, stays, clean so I can find things and move things quickly along. if it's not in the calendar on my phone, whatever meeting or whatever, it doesn't exist. Like I live by a calendar. This is how I do all the things that I do. That's how I'm able to manage so many clients. So I just really, and also, reading, reading books, not as much as I would like, because life, but still like challenging myself to get better and grow and think differently and apply differently. These are all the things that this journey has taught me.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's this high level of self-awareness, right? That allows you to kind of, self-awareness is being able to know what you're capable of, know what you're not capable of, know where you want to go, and the things you need to incorporate to get there, right? That's self-awareness. That's not something that's innate for a lot of people. I know it's not innate for me. It's something I'm constantly working on. What are the tools that you used, or you've used and are continuing to use, that has sort of helped you develop what I think is a really high level of self-awareness?
Some of the tools are really like sort of basic ones, for me anyway. I do a vision board and have done a vision board every year, at least one for more than a decade, maybe more than almost 20 years. So from a vision standpoint, I generally do a check-in, like, what do I want to achieve this year? And what are the steps I need to take to get there? Having a mastermind group is key, because you've got accountability. Like I break down goals and I'm like, I give myself like a target date. That doesn't always happen, but at least I'm always conscious and aware of the things that I said that I wanted to do. So what does it take to do those things? Go to bed on time, doesn't always happen, but I have an alarm on my phone that tells me to go to bed at a certain time.
That is deep when you have an alarm to tell you to take your behind to bed. That, because I need to do that because I am struggling to get my behind to bed. So I feel you, man. I understand.
Trust me. I have a personal trainer. I've got a running partner. Accountability has been a huge thing,
Yeah.
So it doesn't always work, but I guess one of the challenges is keeping the motivation sometimes to do all these things going, in terms of digging in deep and figuring out like how to continue that, especially in pandemic, has not been easy, falling off at times.
What's the pandemic been like for you with all these things going on? Because I imagine that you're constantly on, because your son is with you the whole time. You are a full-fledged single parent. I'm a single parent, yes, but I share custody. You have your son 100% of the time. Yeah. What's that been like for you?
I hire custody. I hire a single parent. Seriously, like I hire another parent. I have a nanny. I have a couple of them, who help make sure that my son is on target with his schoolwork, and help manage him to make sure that he's getting what he needs during the school day. And also lean on my parents as well. I can't even tell some days I'm just like so grateful. I bought my house 2 stoplights away from my parents. That was clutch. So at times when I have needed a breather, he will go over there. Usually that's at least once a week. So in pandemic, it's looked not a lot the same, but I guess a lot the same. I mean, I work from home. I work from home for the past 6 years. I just don't see people that much. We don't go out as much because of pandemic. And I've just brought in more help to manage things while I am working more than ever, to be honest. I think a lot of people can probably say the same, that through pandemic, they find that they work more than ever for their jobs, whether it's because people have nothing else to do, or their bosses have nothing else to do other than have them do more work, or because, we've kind of blurred lines professionally and personally. There's the expectation now that you'll do more. Which, I work on with my clients, but Rome was not the day.
Indeed. As an individual who myself is pivoting and working towards becoming a therapist and eventually a psychologist, I'm as you might imagine, I'm a big advocate of mental health. Is that something that you incorporate into your life to kind of help you keep you grounded as far as seeing a therapist or what have you?
Sure. My therapist and I have had a relationship for many, many years. I think I may have told you. She now sometimes refers coaching clients to me.
You have, yes.
I don't do, at this point, I have a lot of tools that I can use, for myself in pandemic that I also use with my son, from journal writing to meditation, definitely exercise. My father told me this a long time ago and it stuck. He's like, he very rarely knows like an unfit person in terms of mentally who's fit within their bodies. Doesn't mean people don't go through things, but it's just like the emotional connection to your health overall in terms of the, movement has been very helpful. So like my son, for instance, he knows he's got 25 push-ups and sit-ups he does every day. His boxing coach is helping him. It's just remembering to tie in the good things that you need right now, from nutrition and vitamins and working out and journaling and seeing your friends,
Was that your little alarm to remind you to do something else?
This is my son literally texting me right now. Sorry, you don't need to text me. Just tell me, honey. Go see the voice message. This is how we communicate.
You know what? And I appreciate this because this is like authentic. And when I created this series, I'm like, I want to see people in their most authentic environment. And it doesn't get any realer than that to see you having to text your son. Whole different. This is so dope, man. I couldn't have asked for a more authentic situation. So yeah, and this has been so fascinating to me, just listening to your story, getting to understand you a little bit more.
I'm sorry, Peter. Could you give me 1 second?
Sure.
I couldn't listen to it. What do you want to say? I am. No, you cannot play it. I'm on this camera. What's your question? Oh, he's like, when are you gonna be off the call? I'm gonna be off the call in just a few minutes. We're wrapping up.
Yes, Solomon. We're gonna be done here in a few seconds.
So get ready for your call. I already did. Okay, thank you. And
by the way, I'm not going to edit this out.
Okay, that's fine.
This is staying right here in this, so people can understand that you are an individual that was running the high seas of New York in terms of on yachts and helicopters and all this stuff. And here you are still trying to juggle all these things while being a mother, right? I mean, I understand. Listen, when my child comes and stays with me every other weekend from Friday evening to Monday morning, by Monday morning, I'm saying to the school, here, take her. I love the child, but I mean, she's draining, so I can imagine that you're constantly ripping and running. So I appreciate this. So, but I'm gonna honor Solomon's request. I'm not gonna keep you too much longer. I like to sort of close this thing out with a question that I ask in 3 different forms, right? Similar question, but I ask it at different phases of your life. Now, with the background you have now, with the insight you have now, with the ability to hear what the universe is telling you, be able to feel it, that information you have at your disposal right now. And I'm not going to try to age you, by the way, so I'm not aging you here.
Okay. Yeah. We all know that black does not crack.
What? Right? What would you tell 20-year-old Tomika about what would you tell your 20-year-old self with what information you have read, if you could do that?
Get out of your own head. I would say work on your self-talk right now, because even though you've done all these things, or you're doing all these things, there's so much more that you can do. And even better, if you can just tell yourself that you can do whatever you want to do and not worry about, the sort of like insecurities that show up, I just all kinds of things, all kinds of opportunities that passed me by that if I had just more like confidence, that I would have totally been able to capitalize on. So many. So yeah, that's what I would say. Get out of your own head, girl. Do the thing. Foot to the throttle. Go. That's what I would tell her.
Gotcha. No, I'm a trainer.
And I would also tell her,
okay,
prepared later in life to be alone for a while, because a lot of people in general, but a lot of men especially, because that's who I date, don't do this kind of work, or they come to it later in life.
Yeah.
So you've been on this track for a long, long time. And so what does success look like in terms of connecting to someone else? Sometimes it looks like mentorship or helping. I can't tell you how many times, over the years, that has been my story, helping someone to do the thing. And of course you want to help, right? But it also means that romantically, it's more challenging to connect with someone who is where you are. Or close enough to where you are to like understand, your thinking and appreciate it. So gotcha. I would also say, hey girl, you can win some, but some you may not win, we'll see.
Yeah. And it's like basically get out of your own head. And we stay in our heads when we think we have it all figured out, And the interesting part, so the second part of this question I like to ask, because I am a person who's training to be a therapist and a psychologist. So we look at the human development. What you tell yourself at 20, that's one thing. Now, what would you tell your 30-year-old self?
To feel no ways about being a single parent, because of the stigma that is thrown on single parenting. I had my son when I was 38.
Yeah.
And so I was fortunate in a lot of ways to have really lived by the time I had him. But that didn't mean that I was prepared, like emotionally, for people making judgments about being a single mom. And then on top of that, being a Black single mom, I would tell myself to, steel myself more emotionally for some of the pain that it brought, to feel like people were disappointed in me for taking the path that I did. Single parents who travel is largely informed by a certain limitless that we put on ourselves as parent and our children, who are also sometimes stigmatized, right? And so I would tell myself to, sorry, I live close to a highway, so
yeah.
Here we go. Next day to the hospital.
Authentic, man. Authentic.
Right. Yeah, I would tell myself, don't trip. And also, low key, some of the same people who are kind of like throwing you shade right now, they wish they had the courage to go ahead and have a child before it was too late. So I would also say that to myself.
Gotcha. So in a sense, what I'm hearing you say is you'd have told yourself, forget about what people say. Figure out your own self. 20s, get out of your own head. In your 30s, what I'm hearing you say is, forget about, you've not out of your own head. Don't listen to what other people say.
Yeah.
Or carve your own space. That sound accurate?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Now, the last part of that question I like to ask is, what are you telling yourself now that you have this information about the future?
I'm telling myself, girl, I'm proud of you, but you can do more.
Yeah.
And so what does that look like? So right now, for instance, I recently got the great thing about having been a career journalist, which I don't know if I ever said, interviewing a lot of people over the years, is that I can take that into this part of my life and use it to benefit me as well. I mean, so like now I have a coach who I'm working with about, putting together potentially a nonprofit. I'm going to be hiring another coach to talk to me about what it would be to put together a federal contracting business. Is to leverage the skills that I have to like glean the knowledge that I need to quickly from people who have trod the path already. And then you figure out, is this what I want to do? And if so, then, putting sort of like the wheels in motion to take my businesses or my business period to the next level. So that's what I'm doing. And also just like, it's got to be, again, something I'm passionate about. Kids, families, Black people, all passion, So trying my best to align all of this effort, because of course, energy is, I'm not saying it wanes as you get older, but you definitely start seeing the fact that, we're getting older. What would you like your legacy to be? Who would you like for it to benefit? So, and therefore putting your energy into those places.
Right. Fabulous, man. This has been, as I say, this has been, again, when I thought about this series, you were the first person that came to mind. And in a lot of ways, our talks as you know, kind of inspired this series to kind of come about. So I'm really grateful for that. And I'm really grateful for having you as the first person, right?
Okay.
With that being said, how do people find you, right? What are the, like, I'm certain you have, I saw the website, but tell people where they can find you.
Sure.
All the social media platforms, websites, and I'll have a link in the description for all the various things, but kind of tell them where they can find you right now.
So definitely Facebook. We have a group, if you're a single parent or whether or not it's by circumstances, divorce, by choice, what have you, we have a community for you, especially if you're looking to travel with your children or your child. And that's singleparents.com. Although single parents on Facebook is probably the best place to just, message me. Also, I have a website called motivatedmamas.org. So you can message me there as well. But yeah, there's a number of different ways. Thank you very much, Peter, for everything that you said and for posting links. But I'm findable, and hopefully we are able to connect.
Definitely. Excellent. Well, Miss Tomika, or Mika, as we affectionately refer to you as, I want to thank you so very, very much again. I want to thank Solomon for his patience. He's been so super kind, and this has been dope, man. Guys, thank you for tuning in. We are, the next episode, I'm not sure who it will be a surprise again. But again, the people who I interview are people who I admire or know personally or admire from afar. And so, Tomika, I know you both personally, and I admire you from afar as well. So thank you so much again.
Thank you. I look forward to talking and connecting more.
Fantastic. You stay well, all right?
Yes, you too.
All right.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.